every day to become the best wife I can be. By working through my current relationships to best prepare me for ours and our kids one day. I can't wait to love you in the best way I know how for the rest of our lives.
You also had prosecutors describing Ibarra as a predator who went hunting for females at the university, and Special Prosecutor Sheila Ross specifically saying, when Laken Riley refused to be his rape victim, he bashed her skull in with a rock repeatedly, and then presenting evidence including the discovery of Ibarra's DNA under Riley's fingernails and his thumbprint on her phone screen, with him also describing surveillance footage purportedly showing Ibarra attempting to dispose of evidence after the killing. And then on top of that, a number of local and federal law enforcement witnesses provided detailed accounts placing Ibarra at the scene mainly through cell phone data and GPS data from Riley's smartwatch. Now with this, the defense argued that while the evidence was graphic and disturbing, it didn't prove Ibarra's guilt, also claiming there was no evidence that Ibarra intended to rape her. But in the end, after everything played out, after Ibarra previously waived his right to a jury, Judge H. Patrick Haggard found him guilty on all charges. And then with that, he has been sentenced to life in prison without possibility of parole, which is actually exactly what prosecutors had asked for, with him declining to seek the death penalty. And among those celebrating the decision, you had Donald Trump, who wrote, "The illegal who killed our beloved Laken Riley was just found guilty on all counts for his horrific crimes." And adding, "It is time to secure our border and remove these criminals and thugs from our country so nothing like this can happen again." Right? And this notably as, for example, this week, we had him confirming that he intended to declare a national emergency and use the military for mass deportations. But ultimately, that is where we are here. And of course, I'd love to know your thoughts, really, whether it be about either level of this story. Because at one level, of course, you have everything political about the situation, and the other, you just have a murderer being held accountable for the murder of a young woman. But then, in huge automotive / backlash news, let's talk about Jaguar, or in the most troubling of places, Jaguar. Tony left a pop on my Jaguar. But however you pronounce it, the reason Jaguar's in the news is because they changed their logo and they revamped their image, and apparently everyone fucking cares a lot about that. And actually, there are a few different parts that are facing backlash. So I'll start with the logo, because they're pivoting away from the famous big cat known as the Leaper, and they're moving to a more minimal version of that image where the cat is sort of just the negative space of some horizontal lines. And then with that, they'll also be changing the font for the brand, which will now say Jaguar with a very spaced apart, simple lettering with the J, G, and U, very subtly the only uppercase letters in the name while the rest are lowercase. With the company saying it is a powerful celebration of modernism, geometric form, symmetry, and simplicity, demonstrating the unexpected by seamlessly blending upper and lowercase characters in visual harmony. But then also, as places like CNN have pointed out, there may be another intent behind the capital letter, or like how you might say it out loud if there's an emphasis on the G and U. Explaining it's also a little less of the American Jaguar and a bit more of the traditional Jaguar, as it's said across the pond. And notably, this whole rebrand, it's coming as the company's in the middle of transitioning to go electric by 2026. And actually, in this transition era, they have stopped selling cars in the British market, and they're only selling one model stateside. Which then brings us to another point of backlash, because right, to I guess mark this new direction the company's taking, they put out this video promotion that shows a bunch of models with very blank expressions wearing bright and wacky clothes against clashing bright backgrounds. They're very futuristic and Tilda Swinton-esque looking. You also got catchphrases flashing and synthy music that sounds kind of like a heartbeat and an ultrasound playing. All while notably not a car in sight. So one, people were like, what about the fucking cars? And two, it also sparked some kind of like anti-woke backlash because of the diversity of the models in the ad. Others also just generally not understanding the rebrand and video in general, with the likes of Marquez Brownlee, for example, writing, "This is horrible. It's also the most anybody has talked about Jaguar in 50 years. And it really makes me wonder how fast I could drive one of their cars in a school zone." Fine, I'll be honest, he didn't say the last part, but you did have others adding, "This will be taught in schools as how not to do a rebrand." And tons of people thinking it's ironic that Jaguar's using the phrase copy nothing as it boasts this rebrand, considering it's roughly the 1 millionth company to switch its logo to something modern and basic. And this is according to Fortune. Jaguar's chief creative officer even had to tell reporters that his team, quote, had not been sniffing the white stuff when coming up with this. And the outlet also saying of this rebrand, "The problem is that to be effective, brand campaigns need to deliver on their promise with actual products that live up to the claims made. And for the moment, Jaguar has little to show for itself." Though, with that, the company will be showcasing more of this rebrand at Miami Art Week in December. Though, for now, it remains to be seen if an actual vehicle will be a part of this, or if it's just gonna be more of the stuff that people are not liking so far. But what I will say is that you cannot deny that there is a lot of attention on the brand right now, which is why you have some arguing this thing could have a payoff, saying things like, "I have no idea what this is all about, but it's genius. Everyone is talking about Jaguar in a moment of time when they're not actually making cars." But as one marketing professor explained to the Associated Press, this whole thing just strikes the wrong tone for buyers because Jaguar is not using its heritage to sell. But the counter counter to that is it is not a good thing if you do not stick the landing, right? If they don't, it's just that more people know you're a clown show. But then, y'all, I don't know if this story is more weird, insane, or funny. Your personal take will likely be connected to your thoughts around Logan Paul. And that is because the BBC was investigating Logan's crypto wallet. Right, this investigation was part of a documentary titled Logan Paul, Bad Influence, which will actually air today. And this morning, the BBC published an article about the crypto allegations against Logan alongside its release. Right, and while that article claimed the BBC had seen evidence suggesting that Logan promoted investments without revealing that he stood to benefit from them, the part that has actually now gotten the most attention is the BBC trying to contact Logan. Because as the BBC explained, for several months, Paul refused to talk to the BBC about our investigation. But then going on to say, then he appeared to relent, inviting us to interview him at his gym in Puerto Rico. So they send him a list of the allegations they wanted him to respond to. They travel to Puerto Rico so they could get the answers in person. They even brave a tropical storm to do so. But when they actually got there to sit down with Logan Paul, this is what happened.
All right. How are you enjoying Puerto Rico?
Yeah, pretty good, man. I have to say, the real Logan Paul looks very different.
Did you come all the way over here to ask about how I look?
Is Logan coming?
I'm right here, bud. You came all the way to Puerto Rico from England. This is your interview. What do you got?
So as you can probably tell, that is not Logan Paul. That is a lookalike, and I use lookalike very loosely. Right? He kind of looks like an alternate reality Logan Paul 10 years from now, where like the Suicide Forest controversy actually stuck. But then even that is kind of a stretch. It's just an older guy in a wig. But it's this well-known Logan Paul impersonator by the name of Rodney Peterson. And so obviously the journalists trying to do this interview, they're not tricked by this, and they say,
Let's just get out of here. I'm not doing this.
Matt, no.
But then the bit goes even further when you can hear presumably staged protesters chanting against the BBC.
You came all the way to Puerto Rico for this interview.
They hired pedophiles. Neither. Stop touching child,
With the BBC then writing in the article, we had flown all that way just to be trolled, and then adding, minutes after abandoning the interview, we received a lawyer's letter on behalf of Paul warning us of the possible consequences if we published our findings. And so as far as the findings in the BBC's investigation, they touched on previous crypto controversies that the internet has long talked about with Logan, like the Dink Doink controversy and Crypto Zoo. And to further investigate Logan's alleged wrongdoings in the crypto sphere, they looked at a wallet they said publicly belonged to him, as well as an anonymous one that they said appears to have close connections to him. Right? And this because the anonymous wallet got funds from Logan's public wallet before trading. And the BBC found several meme coins that Logan had posted about, prompting them to increase in value and enrich his wallet. And while the outlet said that it cannot be sure of his intentions, you have people saying it seems pretty clear that his posts affected the price of some of these coins. With, for example, one tech journalist adding, a big guy with a lot of influence, someone like Logan Paul, buys a ton of crypto and tells their followers about it. They're going to buy it too. Now, so far, Logan hasn't posted about this whole thing publicly, and we're gonna have to wait to see what comes out in this documentary. And so in the meantime, I just gotta ask, what are your thoughts both in general, and do you find this more weird, insane, or funny? But then taking a quick break from the news, most people have experienced the same stressful feeling of being at the bottom of a mountain of debt. And the truth is, many of us will get deeper in debt during the holidays. But I'm not trying to pile on the stress here, right? Just the opposite. Because listen, if you find yourself making payments each month on your debt and the balances are not going down, the sponsor of today's show, PDS Debt, they have solutions for you. And this applies to everyone with over $10,000 or more in eligible debt, and there's no minimum credit score required. Bad and fair credit accepted. Because PDS Debt strives to understand your specific scenario and can help provide alternative solutions for becoming debt-free. They have customized options for anyone struggling with credit cards, personal loans, collections, even medical bills. They provide a service to match you with debt solutions tailored to your financial situation. And the first step is with the free debt analysis that they're offering you right now. It only takes 30 seconds. You just head over to pdsdebt.com/DeFranco. Stop waiting and start saving. Get your free debt analysis right now at pdsdebt.com/DeFranco. Because nobody likes the stress of mounting debt and the pressure that comes with that. Surviving is not living. Regain control of your life and live for you, not your debt. And then Netflix right now is having some good news, bad news about that joke of a fight that was Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson. Because while I ended up accidentally sleeping through most of it, and most people's reaction was that was fucking kind of sad and stupid, it broke a ton of records. With Netflix putting out a press release saying that it averaged an estimated 108 million live viewers globally and peaking at 65 million concurrent streams, which would make it the most streamed sporting event ever. And then on top of that, ESPN reported that the fight broke records and became one of the most heavily wagered fights in years, with a spokesperson for BetMGM saying that more bets were placed and more cash was wagered on that fight than any other boxing or MMA event in the company's 7-year history. But that is where the good news ends, because reportedly Netflix is now facing a lawsuit over the quality issues during the fight. Because, if you watched it at all or even just used social media while the fight was going on, you know that Netflix was crashing out for tons